Coming up next, Die Fiend 80 Gore. Hey everybody, welcome to the Bookening.
It's Thanksgiving. We're still stuck on Halloween.
I just think that when you have a masterful sequence of Halloween puns like Die Fiend 80 Gore, how can you not, Jake? You'd have to have more self-control than I do, my friend.
I think it's arguable that it doesn't work as well as you imagine it does.
I mean, sure, if you want an argument to be defeated easily, then you can argue that. I mean, anything's arguable. Just read 1984, see what some of those guys were arguing.
Yeah.
Or should I say, what was it again? Die Fiend 80 Gore.
Yeah.
I think you should say that.
Die Fiend 8 Bleed Gore.
That's getting a little further away
From
anything useful.
Well, folks, we are reading Die Fiend 8 Bleed Gore by Gord Gore Hell, and we're having a great time
this
doing
is
it.
your own form of newspeak where everything has to be Halloween pun related.
Oh man, if only I was in charge of a fascist Halloween dictatorship.
Fascist Halloween dictatorship.
Nathan the Pumpkin King.
That would be the life. That would be the knife.
Yeah.
Nathan the Pumpkin King. Yeah, if only I was old.
Bat, cold, killer bee.
Wait, who's Bat Cold Killer Bee?
That would be the knife, you said. I was trying to give the other things.
Oh, that would be the life.
Yeah, bat cold.
That
cold.
Bat cold.
Bat cold.
Bat cold.
Bat cold bleed.
Bat cold.
What would they be?
Fiend. Bat cold bleed fiend life.
I understand.
Ah, yes. Bat cold bleed fiend life.
Bat cold bead fleeing life.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man.
It's indecipherable.
What, the puns?
Anything that has been said from the start of this episode to now.
Bleeds.
Completely indecipherable.
Okay. Well,
I don't even know what book we're talking about.
let me
Who wrote it?
Die
Hard. Die Hard. I know that reference. Me and Captain America.
Let me decipher it.
Ooh. Scary.
It, like the clown.
Ooh.
Oh. Hey, folks, we're talking about 1984. Last time, we were going through some of the ideas from the novel, like historical negationism, propaganda, newspeak, hate week, thought police, and saying, yeah, Orwell kind of nailed it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you wouldn't have thought it. It took a long time, but yeah, here we are.
I think one of the parts that rang the most true to me, not the most politically correct thing to say, but what is, if you're agreeing with Orwell, he has this little section about how women make the best members of the party because they're super loyal and obedient to the party and kind of psycho for it, especially young women.
Yep.
And I was like, I think maybe that describes some of the world that I live in today. Thought I to myself.
Is that what you thought, Nathan?
Yeah.
Kill the heretic.
I mean,
Send him to room 101.
yeah. Sorry, folks.
I kind of think we need to.
You think you're going to send me to room 101?
Yeah. Maybe even room 100.
What's in room 100?
Oh, you don't want to know.
Why is it called 100?
Nathan, don't question the system.
Nathan, deep down, you know. You've always known.
You've always known it was room 100, and you've known why.
Yep.
All right. On a level of 1 to you're going to torture me to death with rats, evaluate this statement. I think that women are...
Death by rats.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Great.
Women are death by rats. There's a t-shirt.
Women or death by rats.
Yeah.
If I had to choose between women or death by rats,
I would also choose women.
if I had to choose to get rid of one, women.
This is a glorious time we are having.
Oh man.
No, I
I
like.
pity the person that actually thought they were going to get into this podcast through 1984. There is one book that we've just said we don't care.
We're treating this a bit like
We don't care if this is your introduction.
we're not treating this with the same respect that we treated Marilyn Robinson.
Oh no, trap door open.
Oh, no.
I take it back.
Fix it. Yeah, we got it fixed. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh,
Pretty sure he's dead.
Nathan has since been sitting on the opposite side of the table.
yeah. I just don't. There's a trap door that periodically just opens, but we just watch it. It's like, okay.
Close it back up. Nobody is dumb enough to actually sit over top of it anymore.
Yeah, Nathan learned his lesson.
Man, this stuff is all deep cuts. We have not yet said a single sentence that anyone can understand outside of.
Like I said, indecipherable.
Our super friends. Yeah.
Jake is right. Deep cuts, and we don't scare. I will say that particular character appears on another podcast.
Yeah.
You can find him somewhere under not that name, I don't think, but it's definitely that character. It's canon, folks.
Yeah.
You can find him. Probably really already released by now, I think. Well, definitely already released by now.
But you can also find him. He's been there before.
He's been there before. He's been there a few times.
Yeah.
Should we say the podcast?
But it's a sound of Santa.
Yeah, so, yeah. I mean,
What else would it be?
Oh, he's making an
then
appearance.
comes what? What?
He's making
The world
an
we
appearance.
made.
What?
He's making an appearance.
He's made a couple appearances.
Well, I know he made one. Yeah.
I guess maybe listen to the Halloween episodes that come out for Sound of Sanity. You might hear an old friend there.
Oh. Does he say Bradley?
He does not say Bradley.
Okay.
And I'm not saying what old friend it is. So, Jake.
There may be
actually.
several old friends, actually.
Ooh, scary.
Old friends. All right.
They're not from the Bookening, only one from the Bookening.
Let's talk about 1980 gore.
Let's do it.
Die Fiend 8. Did we come up with something for 8? Die Fiend.
No, you came up with something for T.
Die Fiend Crate. Like sometimes crates hold monster. So Die Fiend Crate.
Great.
Great.
Like the grate on the street where it hides behind.
Yeah, exactly. Die Fiend Great. Bleed Gore.
Or if you want to throw a Thanksgiving reference in there.
I don't.
Die Fiend Gravy.
Die Fiend Gravy
4.
Pie Fiend Gravy 4.
Yeah, Pie Fiend Gravy 4 there.
All right, let's do this. Let's make it into a full Thanksgiving pun.
My goodness.
Okay.
Pie
You can be a pie fiend.
Fiend. Yeah, you're Pie
Or
Fiend.
Pie Steam.
Pie Steam. Sure.
Pie Steam Gravy.
Pie Steam Gravy. Gravy pour.
Yeah.
Pie.
Pie Steam Gravy 4. Or you could do like ice cream
stuffing,
gravy.
cranberry sauce, turkey.
Ice cream gravy 4.
Ice cream gravy 4. We've got an ice cream gravy 4. What happened to us? What happened to this
Turn
podcast?
it back to gravy pour. It's an ice cream gravy pour.
It's an ice cream gravy pour?
Yeah.
You want to come to the ice cream gravy pour? You never been to an ice cream gravy pour?
Sounds delicious.
Now I want to talk about a song from...
Guys, we're acclimating. We should tell people we are acclimating to a completely new way of doing the Bookening.
Yeah, now we're doing this crap.
Oh, man. We just lost all our listeners.
We hope that you're acclimated too.
So the musical Carousel, have you guys ever had the pleasure of seeing?
No.
It has this big song in the middle where they've just had a clam bake, and so they sing this song. I will now quote from the lyrics. Oh, this was a real nice clam bake. We're mighty glad we came. The victuals we eat were good, you bet. The company was the same. Our hearts are warm, our
Just as
bellies
good as
are
victuals.
full, and we are feeling prime. This was a real nice clam bake, and we had a real good time. I don't know if that's the actual music, but those are the lyrics.
Why are you reading this to us?
I just think it's funny. That must be the song of all songs ever written that is the most inapplicable to anything else ever. Like, it only works in that one context. It cannot be recontextualized. There's no other place to use this clam bake song besides in a movie that features a clam bake.
That's true.
And I have no idea what made me think of that.
What is a clam bake?
Well, Brandon, there's a thing that you do at a clam bake.
You bake clams?
No.
Oh.
You eat clams that other people have
baked.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds nice.
Quality stuff. Quality stuff.
Great stuff.
Solid gold. Boy, 1984.
Yep.
I'm not gonna say the Thanksgiving pun or the Halloween pun because we have got to get this train on the track. So
we had it on the track. What were we talking about?
I don't think we've ever been on the track because all we've been talking about are Halloween puns.
Didn't we say something?
Oh yeah, I said the thing about women make good party members.
Yeah. So we started out with a bit of sexism, then we moved on to some Halloween puns.
Some anarchy.
Yeah.
We backed up our sexism with some nonsensical crap. Listen, folks. Women.
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, no, women are great. But I think because women are designed by God to be helpmates, they are loyalists and they throw themselves into a cause, generally speaking. Not that there aren't exceptions. But you take that and you combine that with uber party loyalty. It's like Chesterton says about women in the workplace. He has this extended thing where he's like, women are so much better at being workers in the workplace. They will take these menial jobs and they will do them zealously. And that's why they should never be in the workplace. I think Orwell has a nice line on that in talking about the women of the party. Yeah. They are committed to it in a way that, I don't know. I guess all I was really trying to say with that is it rang true to what we see in political...
On the campus of Indiana University.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
A recorder's office is where I have to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. They're always ran by women and they can make life very interesting.
Yeah. It's like we as gentlemen, we all understand we're not supposed to take these rules that seriously. We obey them, whatever, it's fine. But at the end of the day, it's a job.
Yep.
Women don't have that innate understanding.
No.
They take everything
It's
seriously.
all of life.
It's all of life.
Yeah. And which is great when you're a homemaker.
Right. Yeah, it's wonderful. It's
because it is all of life.
Yeah. And it's life or death. It's like, if I don't do this, the child will die. But you can't bring that same zealotry to the workplace, actually. You have to have some distance and some understanding and a little bit of ironic detachment.
Yeah.
Which women, generally speaking, lack, which is why they make...
The ability to shut off.
The ability to shut off, the ability to leave it behind, the ability to hold yourself at a distance from it.
Yeah.
And that's why they make great party members, actually, of any of these kind of...
Yeah, because it becomes all of life.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there you go. There's your sexism. I think, is there anything else you guys want to say about... let me ask this question, because I want to actually talk about the novel, which we've managed not to do that much over these past 3 episodes. But in terms of Orwell's prophecy and his understanding of the world and all that, do you think there's anything that he got fundamentally wrong? I'm not talking about televisions, telescreens, but in his philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, this is going to be a little hard to parse. So the idea that if we take away all pleasure, then everything is channeled towards power.
Mm-hmm.
There is something fundamentally true about that sexual energy will inevitably translate as aggression and power struggles. But that's not the way that you keep a society subdued.
Yeah, I think it's more true on a personal level than it is on a societal level.
Exactly. So where Orwell then makes sex into the act of rebellion that can undo everything,
mm-hmm.
and abstinence in the ladies' anti-sex league
mm-hmm.
as the way to keep people in check, that's completely bogus, and that's why Huxley was right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one. I don't know how to...
Except he has the weird stuff with the pornography.
That's for the proles.
Yeah, it's for the proles. So they keep the proles under control by giving them...
I think I agree 100% with you, Jake. I think if I was pushing back, I'd say, and I'm by no means an expert on Stalinist Russia, or China or any of these places, or Nazi Germany, but don't some of these regimes actually, aren't they repressive?
Well, China was what I was thinking of
sexually
later especially when I think it was in the sort of all running together in my mind now. I think it was an excerpt from Goldstein, maybe. Certainly China has, I guess all I want to say is it's tricky.
Well, I think any fascist or totalitarian society does find a way to render sex sterile and fruitless.
Yeah, no question about
which Orwell understood something of that, and that's China. You know, from what I know of Stalinist Russia, I think it went through periods. I think as the communists were coming to power, if I remember correctly, and I'm not an expert, folks, so don't give us 1 star, but I think just like with fascist Germany, there was a lot of sexual debauchery during early stage communism. And then they kind of, as things became more oppressive, clamped down on it and had these weird kind of support the party by being a family man things. I mean, that was Hitler, the Hitler Youth, the ideal German woman. But then there's 2 things that go against kind of the Orwell version of it. Number 1, there was always a lot of hypocrisy with that because it turns out people have sexual energies that do need channeled, and there's nothing you can really do about that. You have to channel it somehow. You can't just turn it off, and you can't just channel it into power. Like it has to, or any other thing. It has to be sex will out eventually. And number 2, I think that they in a lot of those cases relaxed. I mean, like I think Stalinist Russia relaxed again. Like, oh, actually, we need to let people do what they want. If we're gonna, they're not going to take us seriously and let us stay in power if we tell them they can't have sex. Basically, you know, like.
Inevitably, what you get are these rings of hypocrisy. Orwell might say, have you heard of the Holy Roman Empire?
Right.
And of course, the proles, they were allowed to marry and whatever, but to be in the inner circles, the higher up in the inner circles you went, you had to be celibate, to be in the priesthood, enjoy these upper levels of power, and then that then led to rings of debauched hypocrisy.
Right.
Right. Which was also, again, hinted at in Orwell when Julia's like, yeah, I've done this hundreds of times with hundreds of people and party members and
also the fact that she proudly wears the sash and is, you know, anybody that doesn't know what Julia is doing behind closed doors would think she's the most sterile and sexless.
Prudish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I just thought it was worth talking about.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Maybe the way to talk about this is that regardless, sex and the control of sex or the quote unquote liberation of sex is, and the importance of it is something that Orwell does understand.
Yeah. Where I think maybe I'm not finding a correspondent in history as I rack my brain for this. And again, I'm not an expert, but you know, Big Brother just says basically sex is bad. Like we don't want you to have sex.
Yeah, what we want to do is abolish pleasure.
Right. And I think North America, the Big Brother that we live under right now, we've abolished pleasure. What we have is a vast array of young people who are using each other for mutual masturbation, who are looking at pornography, who are slowly dying to their capability for pleasure. But what we don't have is a politician getting up and saying, I don't want you to have pleasure. Because that's not going to fly.
What we've done is we've abolished virtue, which is at the heart of being able to enjoy legitimate pleasures. Once you rob legitimate pleasures of virtue, you degrade them and you turn them into something that can't be fully enjoyed. So once you remove the moral order and take sex out of the moral order, then it just becomes a debased form of pleasure. Well,
and so when you see the anarchy today, I think one way of understanding it is a group of sexually frustrated people. I mean, Orwell did understand that sexual frustration becomes channeled into violence, into aggression, into displays of power. We're not really arguing with that.
No.
And I think we see that on a daily basis right now.
With our nation?
With our nation, yeah. I mean, I think I don't think it's 1-to-1. I don't think it's that simple, but I think it is true that no-fault divorce, when you have easy access to abortion, when you have
ubiquitous pornography,
right? You are actually removing, as Jake was just saying, pleasure from sexuality, because what can be enjoyed in such a chaotic and sinful and degraded environment?
You add a guilty conscience to it, and you take away. I mean, okay. let me just get rated R here for a minute. So get the kids out of the room, hit pause, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Sex is intrinsically pleasurable on a physical level. Everybody knows that. It's not a secret. Orgasm is designed by God to be intrinsically pleasurable. That's one small component of the pleasure of sex. The real pleasure of sex is the intimacy that you share with somebody that you love, that you have covenanted to walk together with through life, for better, for worse. And it's heightened even more when you're, by God's design, giving yourself to the kind of intimacy with one another that can produce the fruit of that love. So all of these things are layers that actually heighten the beauty and the joy of sex. Now you take away children, you take away the covenant of marriage, you take away love and joy and suffering and commitment and leave it down to the bare animal act, and then taint it with guilt. Yeah, there's still some pleasure to be had there, but it's such a shadow.
I think for many people, that pleasure dries up too.
Yes, it does.
I mean, why is there such a big Viagra market right now?
Exactly.
Eventually, when you remove all the other components, the last component, orgasm, actually does go away.
Right.
I mean, it's erectile dysfunction. I get where this is the R-rated segment, I guess, but I thoroughly believe that you don't get the animal pleasure without the spiritual pleasure, at least not for long.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a reason why so many men struggle with impotence and erectile dysfunction, and it is all bound up together. And, you know, so much of the cure of that is simply discovering healthy, God-honoring sexuality in all of its fullness and working toward that. And I'm not trying to like put pressure on you to have some magical experience every time you have sex with your husband or wife. I'm just saying there's more to it. And that's the thing that people won't understand growing up in a world where no value is placed, no emphasis is placed on that.
And so in a broad sense, Orwell has it right, because to control the people, you do control the sexuality. And you do, if you want to make people aggressive and make them loyalists to some kind of party line, you do actually render them sterile and fruitless. And that is largely what you see across fascist and totalitarian.
Yeah, and I guess there are a couple of ways that people have basically tried to do it. You know, some totalitarian states have, we're talking forced sterilizations.
That was India under...
it's been in America
Gandhi.
too.
Yeah.
It's been all over the place. Forced sterilizations, forced childlessness, even the one-child policy in China, actually simply by opening up, by preaching things like what Orwell preached, that sexual debauchery is revolution. It's defying the man, opening people up to ruining sex for themselves and simply desiring for themselves to sterilize themselves, literally, surgically, chemically, or through abortion, and then the breakdown of the family and the covenant union of man and wife.
Yeah. I mean, we literally have people that have been allowed to go so insane in our society sexually that they want to have their genitals intentionally mutilated. And if you can't see a bigger... And
they want to mutilate the genitals of their children.
Yeah. And there is a broader
in order to
sweep
virtue
to that.
signal their progressive ideology. It's monstrously evil. And for all of the preaching of the progressives of being on the right side of history will not look kindly. History is going to tear us apart. And if history doesn't tear us apart by the time it's all said and done, there's going to be a judgment. And history will tear us apart. God will tear us apart.
Yeah. All that being said, Brave New World actually still has it more right than Orwell does, because it actually sees and predicts how this sort of thing will ended up working, certainly in 20th century America and 21st century America, better than just the straight up nasty totalitarian.
I mean, it even allows
non-Soviet Europe.
Yeah.
They encourage it with children in Brave New World. I remember that as one of the pretty horrifying sections. This one, like they're encouraging childhood sexuality.
Yeah, exactly. They have the little boys and girls that are actually taught to
and that
be
seems
sexual with each other.
To be fairly accurate for today.
Oh, when we have people in our community at our library, having trans people in their
drag queens,
in their drag queen outfits come in and
Yeah.
tell the kid, like, what else is that?
Well, and
you have
you have
pedophilia
pushes
being-
for sex education to start in kindergarten.
Hashtag cuties. I mean,
Yeah, cuties.
What?
the Netflix thing, cuties.
I don't know about this.
Are you serious?
Oh, I do know about this. Yes.
Yeah.
It's awful. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Took you a second. Or even lowering of age of consent, things that we see happening already in California, which is
Yeah.
are things that we've talked about here and in other places for years as being the next frontier. When Obergefell hit, one of the first things that we said was age of consent is next. And I think Obergefell was 2017?
Something like that, yeah.
You already have age of consent being attacked, and
You didn't think it was going to be this quick with the cascade.
pedophilia is
Once
now looked at
the
as
ball starts, once the snowball starts,
pedophilia is diagnosed as a psychological disorder, or at least something that you should understand on the same level as homosexuality as a.
I mean, we have articles being
Well-
published in mainstream journals, not just like
and-
academic journals, but popular journals saying things like pedophilic feelings are okay as long as you don't
Yes.
Act
break
on
the
them.
law.
Yeah.
Don't actually break the law.
Yes,
but,
exactly. Which
you
is
know.
why, I mean,
Yeah, and then people
redefining it as
arguing for childhood consent,
Mhm.
it's awful.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably a pretty good segue into talking about the novel as a novel, because the novel is going to make some interesting arguments that Jake was just alluding to as to how we free ourselves from. Actually, maybe that's still just talking about the novel's philosophy, but I don't know. We'll try and attack both as we finish up this episode. What did you guys think about 1984 as a book that you read?
I am glad it exists. I am incredibly impressed with.
We haven't actually even talked about baggage.
Baggage.
Had you read this book before?
No, never read it. The only things that I've ever read by Orwell have been like his essay on writing.
Right.
You've never read Animal
Farm?
I've not read Animal Farm. No.
Oh, wow.
Even in terms of dystopian fiction, Brave New World is the only thing I had read prior to the Bookening. We read Fahrenheit 451 together,
Never Let Me Go.
and then Never Let Me Go. That Hideous Strength I had read. Brandon brought it up. In context, is something that
insofar as that counts, then sure.
So insofar as it counts, it's something I had read. But yeah, this is my first time reading the book.
Here, put a pin in your thoughts for just a second, and let me get everybody's baggage, and then we'll come back and.
Yeah, I mean, I had read Animal Farm.
I thought I was still giving my baggage.
Oh,
man.
sorry. I'm sorry. I thought you were about to give your analysis. Continue with your baggage, sir.
I don't know what I was going to say now.
No,
You're hurting
Jake,
my
I'm
feelings.
As far as
So bad.
those were the words you had said.
As far
That's
as
so good.
What?
That's so helpful.
As far as Nathan
As-
is the perfect podcast host who
As-
never makes any mistakes. I think
You're a great podcast host. The mistakes you make are the mistakes I would choose to live with over any other podcast host in all of existence.
Oh,
Thank you,
wow.
Jake.
Oh, man.
I would not be as happy if you were Joe Rogan.
drink bleach, Joe Rogan.
That's basically what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Drink it fast, Joe Rogan.
Please don't drink bleach.
Don't-
Feel bad.
Inject it in your veins, though.
Yeah. No. Yeah, you can imbibe it in other ways. Just don't drink. Do not drink bleach. Sorry, you were giving your baggage, Jake. As far as
no, I don't remember. It's okay. Maybe we should just go to Brandon. All I was going to say is, I don't know. I don't know what I was going to say. What even was I saying before that?
I mean, were other dystopian
wasn't
things
listening.
maybe you've engaged with, or you said you read Brave New World, Fahrenheit 451, or yeah,
It's gone.
it's gone. Or maybe it'll come back.
Okay.
Just interrupt Brandon. Brandon, your
Yeah.
baggage. Bearing in
My
mind that
bag-
Jake
my-
might interrupt you at any moment.
My baggage is short. I've read 1984. I read his essay on writing. I've always had the impression, because of people who liked 1984, that it was going to be like Ayn Rand, and therefore I wouldn't like it.
Mhm.
There you go. That's my baggage.
Okay, I'll keep my baggage short as well. I have read this novel several times. I don't know that I've ever really enjoyed it all that much, but it's just for whatever reason, whether it was in classes or for various reasons. I think I read it in high school, didn't really care about it, and then challenged myself to read it again many years later. Like, just, you should be conversant in this, Nathan. I have read Animal Farm, although it's been since junior high, probably. I'm familiar with some of his essays and famous quotes and things like that. I think I tend to enjoy dystopian literature, maybe, but I was pretty tired of it in the late 90s, early 2000s, around the time that Christian Bale's masterwork of cinema, Equilibrium, came out, where he does gun kata. You guys remember this awesome movie?
No.
No. Okay. You're welcome. Three listeners that remember that, where emotions are outlawed. And so Christian Bale has to do his gun kata. I get very tired of the Hollywood version of this. Like V for Vendetta, I think is a really stupid movie.
Never seen it.
Anytime I see one of those movies that have like big talking faces and kind of, dystopian chic, sort of the look of
the Cardassian Empire.
The Kardashian
Deep
Empire.
Space Nine.
Yeah. Or the Kardashians and what are they called? Bringing Up the Kardashians. What's that thing called?
Yeah, that is a dystopian empire
That
too.
is a dystopian. Kim and
Keeping
Chloe.
up with.
Bringing up the Kardashians. Baby Kardashians. You've never seen the spinoff? So, anytime I see a movie that has like a giant face that's talking to a decayed futuristic cityscape, I'm like, oh, brother. Whether it's
Big Brother.
Oh, Big Brother.
Big
I say,
Brother.
yeah. Oh, Big Brother. I'm just kind of like, oh boy, haven't we seen this? Like, can you guys even if you're going to imagine a dystopia, can you imagine it looking a little different from Ridley Scott's Apple commercial? I mean, I like Ridley Scott's Apple commercial from 1984 as much as the next guy, but does every cinematic dystopia have to look the same way?
Haven't you ever seen Moonwalker?
Michael Jackson?
Yeah.
It's been a long time, and I don't know if I've seen it through, but
It's just in that same...
yeah, it's like, yeah.
It feels like every time I see the 1984 Apple commercial, I feel like it's a scene in Moonwalker.
Mhm. Yeah, there you go. So what am I trying to say? Let me tie these threads together. I have read it several times. I guess I kind of like it. I tend to prefer this stuff in literary form. The cinematic versions always seem a little trite to me. Not that you couldn't name several things that I love, like the original Matrix, that I suppose you could say are dystopian. But when it has that particular aesthetic that we think of as Orwellian, I tend to just be like, come on, guys, this is boring. I don't necessarily love all the cliches that came out of the aesthetic cliches that came out of 1984. As to my feelings on the novel, I will say them as the appropriate time comes. And the appropriate time has now come for Jake to take the pen out of his thoughts and to continue giving them to us, starting now.
About what?
1984. You said something that made me think, we haven't done baggage yet.
What are your thoughts on the novel?
Yeah, I had asked your thoughts on the novel.
I'm impressed by it. I'm impressed by how many handles Orwell has given us to understand the time we live in.
Mm-hmm.
How many handles Orwell has given us to understand the future. I'm impressed by how thorough an understanding of Marxism he has, just philosophically.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to be impressed by, and I'm impressed by it all. I don't think it as a novel is the greatest novel I've ever read. I think it's far from being a great novel in and of itself. But if you take the combination of insight and foresight and even pair it with how do I get this in the hand? How do I communicate this to the masses?
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm going to write a work of fiction that helps people wrap their heads around all this stuff and have some handles to work with. When you pull all that together and then have it be successful on all those fronts as 1984 is, I'm willing to stand behind it and say it's a work of genius and whatever its faults. And the world's richer for having it, and I'm glad that it exists.
Yeah, I think I'm basically on the same page. I mean, it's like any message novel. That if you're looking for a novel, then I'm not, who wants to read Uncle Tom's Cabin
right
for a novel?
Exactly.
For the characters, for the richness of the prose. As a thing, as a savvy bit of messaging and as a cultural touchstone and as a work of political philosophy. I mean, there's all kinds of places where
when you're able to pull all those together in a way that works on a fundamental level and is able to have a popular impact that is, to me, it's just incredibly impressive.
Mm-hmm.
It's how many times have we read, even from so-called geniuses like Dostoevsky? There's so much hack. There's so many hack ways of I have a political or philosophical ideology. I'm going to package it in a novel, and it's just garbage.
Right.
Right?
Is that your take on Dostoevsky there?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Have you started Brothers K?
No. Maybe that'll change. I hope it changes.
About the time you get to the, what is it? The
Grand Inquisitor.
Grand Inquisitor.
I've read the Grand Inquisitor
Oh,
several
brother.
times.
Yeah, of course you have.
Read the Brothers K yet?
I have read the Brothers K, and I've certainly read the Brothers Inquisitor.
Look,
Where'd you land?
at the end of the day,
It's okay. Yeah. It's his best.
Yeah.
Thought Police, Thought Crime,
Mhm.
Big Brother, indelibly helpful handles in a package that I can hand to a high school student.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Well, and for a man who's so keenly aware of how language shapes thought, he has successfully shaped thought until the end of time. Like, we all are scared of Big Brother, and maybe Big Brother will win anyway, but we'll all always be scared of it.
Big Brother will tell us to be afraid of Big Brother.
Yeah. The only way that Big Brother wins is by convincing us that the other thing is Big Brother.
Exactly.
The one thing but what it might have been able to get away with is just being Big Brother. If not for George Orwell, at least we forced it to be
Not Big
hypocritical.
Brother. Exactly.
These mental handles.
Which is to say, he put a fundamental chink in the armor, right?
Yeah.
Like he opened
that's
up
helpful.
he opened up a hole.
That's
He
helpful.
opened up a window. So long as this book exists and can be read, there's a chink.
Okay. You just convinced me. That's the most useful way I've thought of it. Is that it prevents this from ever existing in an unironic way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that.
And
That's
so long as it has to exist in an ironic way.
So therefore, it's useful. And it is well written. And it is, even if I don't like the characters and it doesn't do everything that I usually want in a story, doesn't mean that its value isn't there, and doesn't mean that it shouldn't be read.
Well, even some of the stuff we were criticizing about the sex, it's like maybe one of the reasons regimes haven't been able to actually get away with that over the how many years has it been now? Well, almost 100 years since he wrote the book, is because he told us, like, the bad guys want to shut off your sexuality. Don't let them do it.
So they have to do it another way.
But
by proliferating your sexuality.
Right.
So then you come down, in the end, you almost feel, you feel the despair of Winston,
Mhm.
right? One of the things, intentional, unintentional, almost certainly unintentional, that 1984 inevitably drives you to is God. Okay, Winston's hopeless. What can beat Big Brother?
George Orwell seems pretty hopeless based on the evidence of this novel.
Hopeless, yeah.
Yeah, but God,
Mhm.
right? Like, the King of Heaven laughs at the designs of men.
Mm-hmm.
If you can read 1984 with that in the back of your mind, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to be challenged on, and then there's a lot to say, you know what? All the schemes of men amount to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So
You can do all that, though, without scrambling up the ideas of a great parable and a great novel. And this isn't a great novel.
It's not a great novel.
In fact, it's in some ways it's a good bit of world building. It does all kinds of things.
I think that's where my frustration
Oh my goodness!
was.
When we get to the places where we have to just sit for
Read stupid Goldstein.
Yeah. Oh my
and that's where my
goodness.
frustration with it was, is it's not a novel. It doesn't work as a novel, but working as a good fable, because there is usefulness in stories that expose something that otherwise we would not have wanted to face. You can write all the essays you want about the evils of socialism, but having people actually have to experience it in a story like this is very different. And I see the value of that. So I think you guys, look at that. You guys just convinced me that I should like this more than I did.
Now let's talk about Ready Player One.
No, that's not going to happen.
Ernest Cline and Tolstoy, terrible people.
Hey, is that like coming out in November or something?
Ready Player 2 is coming out sometime next year, and
in 2021.
And we will very shortly announce our book list. It might be on there.
All right.
It better not be. Or quit.
I think the table setting is actually pretty good. This book is divided into 3 parts, I think. The first part is good. It really gets draggy once he starts his affair with Julia, and they're kind of running around and they're reading that stupid pamphlet and stuff like that. it gets pretty preachy. And then the O'Brien stuff, as prescient as it is, as much as he understands this kind of evil and as interesting as that is, that part goes on for a long time.
I couldn't believe
he just wants you to sit in that cell and feel just as crazy as old Winston.
I could not believe how much book was left the minute that he got captured.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I was really dismayed.
Yeah, so you should have been.
Like, what in the world's going to happen?
I honestly...
Like, the only thing that can happen is, from now to the end, we have... they're
going to try and break him. There's two options. He breaks or he doesn't.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Orwell's got a lot of exposition that he wants to dump on me while in the process of... I did know that it's inescapable to not know that in the end he loves Big Brother. So I knew that. I knew the ending.
Lines in literature.
So I knew he was going to break.
Well, and I feel like Orwell.
So it's just like, okay, so I have to endure a whole, third of this book.
Yep.
Of just exposition about that's just like what I knew I was in for when I hit it. Not because I was so like, I was actually. I mean, the execution, I anticipated the execution to be much worse than it actually was.
Just have everybody turn out to be a bad guy.
Well, no, I mean, that had already happened. I'm talking about after that. It's like, okay, everybody's a bad guy, and now he's captured, and now we have a whole nother third of this book left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I expected it to be more, because you had already gotten to the point where you'd hit Goldstein, so it just felt like this degradation, and you just sort of imagine, or I just sort of imagined, he started writing a story. Then he wanted to get really expositional in this really dumb trick of Goldstein's book that we're going to have to read excerpts from. And now we got another third of the book, and it's the final third of the book. Now we've progressed to the point where we're just going to have monologues.
He can literally just be sitting in a classroom with his eyes open, Clockwork Orange style. And
I'm going to, exactly. That is exactly the kind of thing that I was anticipating, is like, he's just going to, have his eyes pried open, and they're going to walk through his re-education program and have to sit and read exposition of all the things that he has to listen to or something dumb like that. That's what I expected. So I was sort of pleasantly surprised by how it worked out, but still going into it was just like, ugh. Yeah. It's like, we just didn't need that much.
We didn't need as much. Well, and
although I will actually cop to being in maybe... I know that this says more about me than it does about the book, but I will cop to getting emotional at points about him and Julia and stuff.
I think it's all pretty well done. I suppose I did too.
Like their relationship?
You mean in the torture stuff section?
Yeah, in the torture stuff, and him trying to hold on, and then him finally breaking, and the do it to Julia stuff, and then the loss of what they had. And
it's a pretty sad and chilling scene at the end when they just run into each other or whatever it is, and they're like, "We both love Big Brother." It's sad. It's a poignant and chilling ending. I wish that Orwell had that last bit of moral imagination that would allow him to see some kind of good in the universe. And it's not that I don't need Winston to break, or it's not that I need Winston not to break, but if there was more suspense in the novel, if we really had to see the bad guys pull some real tricks, like Winston sucks from the beginning of this novel. He's just an everyman, and he's kind of a broken worm of a nebbish of an everyman. And
it would be nice if
he's only as good as George Orwell. George Orwell either
to be.
Yeah, and I think the novel, you could argue that this is a bad way to go, but I think it's more interesting, at least, to have somebody who's a little bit of a challenge for these O'Brien people. You
want more of a Brave New World.
Well, I actually think,
because that is what Brave New World does.
Yeah, Brave New World does do that. Brave New World's much more ham-fisted than this, but it's also,
I think Brave New World is worse than this. Yeah,
as a novel,
I do. I think that this is better.
I think I think every conceit in Brave New World.
I read Brave New World, but in high school, never read this. I remember liking Brave New World.
I kind of like Brave New World.
Brave New World is fun and it's funny, and
okay, I remember that about it.
Huxley has.
I remember that it was fun, that it was funny, that it was enticing, that it didn't feel as bad as it looked, and some of my peers were like, this world's not so bad. And I thought, yeah, that's the point.
Right.
I remember thinking those thoughts in high school.
Which is,
I don't know what perspective I'll have on it on a reread, but
I don't think that. I think
did just buy it.
I think Brave New World is actually pretty good.
I think it's a.
I think maybe I'm finding out that I like dystopian literature better than I thought.
Well, Huxley is he's not as interested in even as Orwell is in writing plausible characters. There's a number of things Huxley just doesn't even try to do that Orwell at least does okay, and just in terms of constructing a novel with a plot and with characters and stuff. But Huxley's also really charming and funny, and he does draw you into the world, I think. That those are the things that lack in this novel. I never feel any loyalty to the party, which I think is an observation that's worth making, maybe not a criticism, but
you let me ask this question. Can you relate to being gaslighted by somebody that subjects you to torture psychologically, emotionally, whatever, and then turns around and relieves the pressure that he creates and puts his arm around you? And
right. Well, you and I both know that's a description of every one of Brandon's context sections. That's what he does.
Exactly right. That's what I was getting at.
And you guys love it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And then we come away feeling like after Brandon's tortured us, when he comes back and provides some relief from the torture he's created, we
love him.
We love him for
right.
that.
We love
and
Big
feel
Brandon.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
You guys love me.
I love
right?
Big Brandon.
Right now you love me, right? Good.
I stomped on your point a little bit there. Yes.
No, but
Orwell does what he needs to do in terms of giving us enough distance to judge the society and also drawing us in.
You know, maybe not everybody, but some people can relate to that sort of Stockholm syndrome, gaslighting kind of effect.
Yeah.
That an abusive, tyrannical authority figure can have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I don't know that we as readers are ever supposed to, like, there's a way to do that where you as a reader relate to it so much that you actually like O'Brien. Orwell never really gives us like
he doesn't turn that corner.
Why would I, Nathan Alberson, reading this novel, why would I support the party? Why would I actually just be a party member? The only thing that you really get from Winston's point of view is because I'm afraid and weak and I don't really want to stand up, but I always kind of have an instinct that it's bad. And it's like, there's a lot of people in this novel that have an instinct that don't have that instinct, that actually lack that. Even Julia, she just likes having sex and being her own person. She's not.
She's only a rebel from the waist down.
She's only a rebel from the waist down. One of the good lines from the novel, sure.
It was a good line.
It was a good line.
And what I loved about the execution of it was that she laughed.
Yeah.
And agreed. Like when he said that, I was like, ooh, oh.
And she's like, yeah.
And then she laughs and is like, yeah. I'm like, oh. I really felt Winston was like
going on a limb.
Winston was punching below the belt.
Mm-hmm.
He was being nasty and he meant it to hurt, and it bounced right off of her. And it said everything about her that Winston was saying. Like, I thought that whole moment was a really great moment.
Well, I guess we should talk about that a little bit more, about the character of Julia and what Orwell's trying to achieve. Do you guys think this novel is presenting sexual, free love, freedom? I mean, is this actually a freedom that Orwell believes in, or is he just setting our heroes up for a fall? Or it's interesting if Julia actually, like a modern person, like the people that wrote that stupid script for the Fahrenheit 451 Michael Jordan movie, they're just going to make the girl be noble and awesome and part of the resistance. That's literally what I think they did. I barely remember that movie, but I'm pretty sure that's what they did. And of course that's what they did. Orwell's not that simplistic. Julia is kind of a bad person, but also Winston finds some real freedom or something there. Maybe. I don't know. What do you guys think of? I mean, that's that's one of the controversial things, certainly in our circles. You know, it's one of the reasons it doesn't actually get used in Christian high schools is because of all the sex presented as the one thing you can do to express your individuality, get back at the party, get some for yourself, whatever.
Yeah.
Rebel.
Yeah.
The one legitimate mode of rebellious expression.
Self-expression.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I was wondering what was going to happen with Julia and Winston. I found it interesting that they ended up being completely committed to one another.
Mm-hmm. We don't get the impression that Julia, I mean, she's done this 100 times and it's never meant all that much. She just
it becomes something with Winston that it hadn't been before.
Yeah, which is where the novel feels like maybe it's cheating or
that it's cheating, that it's like almost like incel wish fulfillment.
Yeah, exactly. There's this nympho girl that gives her body to other men, but she's going to give her soul to me.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a shabby,
I'm
old,
35, fat,
middle-aged man, and she's like a young, hot, early 20s, like obviously she's going to really fall for me.
Yeah.
Because that's what would happen.
And I would be insecure about it, but she would just laugh and say, I don't care.
Mm-hmm. And I'd say, dear, you really need to have a thought in your head. And she'd say, let's have sex. Well, okay, fine, if we must. Like, come on, George.
Self-awareness there, buddy.
All right, so
where do we land on?
Where were we starting from?
Well, I was just presenting that as one of the main moral conundrums of the novel, and I wanted to know what you guys think about it.
Yeah, and I was saying that it's interesting that,
Julia.
Okay, a couple of things that I thought were interesting and somewhat realistic even. Winston can't get it done right away until Winston's worked up into good and angry and knows she's done it hundreds of times and starts to see it as this act of aggression and angry rebellion, that it was actually an act of violence against the party that he was committing. Yeah,
that's insightful.
I think it's insightful.
Mm-hmm. True to human nature.
I think that some of the particulars he understands, and then even down the line, once he begins to develop a relationship with Julia, it unlocks his ability to see the beauty of the old prole lady who's had a dozen kids and is, older like him and thick and saggy skinned and whatever else. Those are some of those places that you were talking about. I wish that Orwell could see more of the beauty. Mm-hmm. There are places where he does.
Yeah.
And it's not just the goldfinch or whatever it was singing, but it was. So I don't know. I don't know where we're going. I forgot what.
Well, even
how
if
we
I
got
think
here, but
what you're pointing out is that even in the places, even if we ultimately want to make the argument that he misses the mark, that he is presenting a wicked view of the world, fornication is freedom. Even if we want to argue that that's what Orwell ultimately believes, he's still writing in his time, had enough of a moral sense that there's any number of incidental things that he gets right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Because
he's got to pull it back to what a modern writer would do is be like, all right, the modern writer and the modern adaptation would be Julia is the liberator. Mm-hmm. And she's going to go around and free the men.
Absolutely.
By sleeping with all of them and awakening them.
Yeah.
Sexually. And it's going to be a free love movement that undoes Big Brother. And, Winston's going to get awoken, and Winston is going to try to seduce, and she's going to go around and she's going to use her sexuality to free all of these. That's the direction it would go. Instead, Orwell pulls them together into this monogamous relationship, a committed relationship.
And one that has some of the attendant difficulties, sexual, emotional, and otherwise, that would actually...
It's that you get that moment late into I think maybe the last time that they're together when he finally gets fully naked in front of her. Like, even.
Yeah, that reads.
Yeah, yeah. So he can't go all the way into free love.
But does he want to? I guess that's the question.
That's your question.
Is this novel actually ultimately presenting fornication as freedom, even if it gets shut down at the end, and that's sad?
Yeah, I think it is. I think that it's at least positing it as a possible way of freedom. I don't think it's looking down on what they're doing. If that's the question, is there a moral?
Orwell's not just setting them up for a fall. He's saying
no. I don't think
they tried their best, and
I don't think it's just a narrative device. I think that you're supposed to be sad that the joy that he gets in book 2 isn't able to last for him. That really is the way to human pleasure, joy, freedom.
And you're not seeing the joy that he gets in stage 2 or in book 2 as the inevitable precursor to the horror of...
No, I think that what he gets in book 2 is what should be had the state not been tricking him. Like, the state was fishing to see would he fall for these things that they're against. So book 2 is like the testing ground to show him everything that he could have, where the state not really that powerful. But then they take it away from him.
Right.
You have O'Brien, the joy of rebellion. You have the other guy, what's his name, the old man?
Oh, Mr. Chamberlain or whatever?
Yeah, who turns out to be a thought police as well. So who gives him the little paperweight that represents everything and the beauty of the past, and then his relationship with her, the love that he has, and the sense of beauty of all that happens there.
Yeah, and they all sort of actually represent three ministries, right? Ministry of love, ministry of truth, ministry of
war.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's there as an illusion, but I think the illusion is only works because it's actually what Orwell thinks is good.
Right.
If you think of it just structurally on that level of war, truth, and love, or violence, truth, and love, it really does make sense of the whole novel. It is important that you see that the joy of rebellion, the joy of love / sex, which is a place where Orwell gets muddled, and the joy of truth. Those are the places where Winston's trying to find his way forward.
Yep.
And then in Orwell's view, love's the last to go.
Right.
The last stronghold.
Right. But it's also the one we're going to circle back around in the coda and say, well, isn't it sad that love went?
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that we really lost, and therefore the thing that was really valuable.
And with it, humanity.
Right. Well, and if you can't have a transcendent divine being in your book, then sex is just always the go-to. I mean, even Never Let Me Go had a sense of that. Like, well, we have a little bit of time left, so what are we going to do existentially? How do we pass the time? Well, we do it in bed.
Yep.
I think Never Let Me Go was more mature and therefore more coy in its presentation of that. This isn't the be-all, end-all of how Kathy and whatever his name are going to redeem themselves. It's
also 50 years downstream.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I don't know, Brandon, how many rats out of 1,984 do you give to 1984?
Is having rats a good thing?
Well, I should ask, is there anything else you want to criticize about this novel? Because you were sounding like at a certain point you were amping up to come out with guns ablazing.
Yeah, I've made peace with it. I don't really want to.
Ministry of Peace?
I don't think it's worth time.
Jake's part of the Ministry of Peace. Everything that you would say would probably boil down to, he just wasn't trying to. I think people could guess
what my criticisms would be, and I just don't think that that's what the discussion has led to, and I'm fine with that.
Well, here, this will be fun. Jake, you want to guess what Brandon's criticisms would be?
It's a hack piece of ideological propaganda masquerading as a novel and failing to be a novel, and he should have just written some essays.
Yeah, that was kind of it. Yeah.
Because he clearly couldn't write a novel.
Yeah, that was kind of it.
I don't know that I would. I mean, obviously, Jake said it in a silly way, but I don't know that I would actually go all the way there with you. I think there's a lot of things that are good about this novel as a novel. I think there's a lot about the story that actually works. I think there's long sections that are boring and stupid and don't work as storytelling. But I think the character of Winston basically rings true. I think the character of Julia and O'Brien.
Yeah, I mean, Jake was given the exaggerated version.
But
that's not where I would land.
We all agree. If you have something to say, write an essay. If you have a story to tell, write a novel.
Right.
We all agree with that. We also all agree, done well, a novel is going to be more effective at moving the needle on an emotional level.
Mm-hmm.
If it's done well.
Yeah.
Than an essay.
I think what you guys successfully did was convince me more that the story that it's telling is worth it.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Which I think is true. I think I would kind of bring the Jake point of view and the Brandon point of view together, and just, I'm not going to take the time to do this in any detail, but I think if we wanted to, we could tease out the fact that cloudy morality leads to bad storytelling. And I think a lot of the moral problems that we were talking about with Julia and all of that.
That's definitely my issue with The Stranger by Camus.
Yeah.
So
if you solved those problems, you'd actually have a stronger story. If Winston had some moral sense that was better developed, if only so that we could attack it and tear it down, I think it would actually make the attacking and tearing down more interesting. And it's not that he has to be...
If Orwell believed that the Lord turns the hearts of kings...
Mm-hmm. It would add to the story, right? Like,
Yeah, it would actually contribute.
Even if you're aiming for the same end. Like, this isn't a story where everything worked out, but if we sort of believe that it could have, it's like what I don't like about Greek tragedy. The characters are doomed from the beginning. They do a bunch of stuff, and then it turns out, they were doomed. What I love about something like, Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet, it's like, if he just made it in time, everything would have been fine. There was hope, and it got dashed, and that's what actually made it tragic. 1984, there's no hope. Winston's always doomed, and so is Julia. They're idiots, and they're cogs in the machine, and the machine is bigger than them. And that's a false point of view, an immoral one, and it doesn't make the story better. It makes the story worse. It makes it less suspenseful and less good as polemics. So I guess that's my take. But having said that, that's a minor criticism of a pretty great work. Anything else we want to say?
No.
All right. How many pumpkin pies, pumpkin dies out of 1,984 do you give to this novel, Brandon?
1,800.
Yep. Wow. That's a lot of pumpkin pies.
I think that's what it deserves.
Okay. Jake?
1,801.
1,801. I'll give it 20. 20 pumpkin dies. Okay. I hate this book.
Come on, Nathan. No. What do you really give it?
Oh, I don't know, Brandon. I don't just want to be a lame Prices writer and give it 1,802, but you know what? I'll go a little lower than you guys.
You just called me a lame Prices writer.
You're going to go lower than me?
I think one person can be a lame Prices writer. I don't know.
You know what you should do?
What?
You should go with a number of the founding of the great capitalist society that has stood against this sort of mentality from the very beginning. 1776. 1776.
Timely reference. Okay.
Great. 1776.
New York. 1776.
What year did Columbus? 1400 and...
Excuse me. Are you Aaron Burr, sir?
Punch the bursar. I remember that much. Okay. Yeah, I'll give it 1776 since Brandon loves America and says I have to. All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, Jake, you want to help us out with some...
The right answer was 1,800.
Crap.
Oh, dang it.
Here comes the thought police.
I was over by one.
Hey, guys, I was right on.
The last couple of times we've done this, I've not really been able to be a part of the donor shoutouts. You think that I could do it today? Maybe even all by myself?
Yeah, Jake, do you want to?
Yeah, please. Can I? All
right. Oh, no. Jake just fell into a sinkhole.
Oh, those are surprisingly quick to open up beneath one.
Yeah, and very surprisingly silent.
Yeah, just fell. He's not even screaming. He's resigned to the reality of the sinkhole beneath him.
Jake is a very zen dude.
He is.
I've often seen him fall into sinkholes, and he never screams. He never pouts. He never complains. He just sort of nods sagely as if to say, this is the sort of thing that happens to one.
Yeah. The face on his hip that doesn't lie, though, it screams. Oh, it's muffled by his pants.
It's horrifying.
He wears very tight pants to keep it muffled.
It's like that painting. Who painted The Scream? Edvard Munch, or Munch, or however you say his name. Yeah. Jake's, fun fact, Munch actually based that painting on Jake's face on his hip that doesn't lie.
Yeah, it looks exactly like that.
It really does.
It's awful.
It's got all that yellow kind of swirly
it's
color.
A little bit like Voldemort's face from the first Harry Potter movie that looks nothing like Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah. Brandon, Rafe Fiennes. He pronounces it Rafe.
Wraith Fiennes.
Wraith. It's not Wraith.
Wraith.
Maybe for one of our Halloween. Rafe.
Wraith.
Rafe.
Wraith.
No. Rafe.
Wraith.
No. There's an F sound at the end, not a T.
I'm saying F.
Rafe.
Wraith.
So say Frankfurter.
Thrinkfurter, right? Thrinkfurter?
Say Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
I was hoping for Thrilladelphia, but Brandon was one step ahead of me. Well, speaking of being one step ahead of people, our donors are one step ahead of the pack in terms of supporting us and in terms of awesomeness.
They sure are. These are the only people in the world that we like.
These are the only people in the world that we like.
Because they give us money.
Yeah, it really is too bad for our wives, our children.
I mean, if they gave you money.
Yeah, if they gave you money, but when's the last time your wife gave you money?
My money, yeah.
Yeah.
And I get no respect, you know?
Brendan's breaking out his classic Dangerfield. Only the most current and timely of references from Brandon Chastain. He was tugging on his tie there, folks. That was what
my
really
eyes bulged out of my head a bit.
It was really the piece de resistance. You couldn't see the visual stuff work that Brandon was doing to bring that to life.
It's amazing.
It was great. All right, I promised an even more auctioneer-like read of our patrons, so I'm going to try and go as fast as I possibly can.
All right.
I'm just taking a little sip
Can you add some auctioneer? Can I hear Anthony and,
I have Robert and Rhonda the Lovebird. That's Robert and what do auctioneers say?
I actually don't know.
Robert and Rhonda the Lovebird. They are for the Dodger, Little Anthony's Cigar Store. Immortal Chelsea, Jimmy Beam. I feel like I'm in my head too much here. I'm overthinking it now.
I think you're doing fine. Keep going. Do it again, though. One more time.
Okay.
We got it this time.
Okay. Robert and Rhonda the Lovebird. They are for the Dodger, Little Anthony's Cigar Store. The Immortal Chelsea, Jimmy Beam, Little Anthony, the Valley, Andrew the Lovebird. Andrew the Lester the Lovebird. Sold. Keith Master, David Money Man Trucking, John and Jill Lily Boy, Shane and Katie Cold and Love Cheese, and also C.S. Lewis and Fun fact, I was articulating every word.
That was amazing.
And you're welcome.
That was amazing.
Patrons.
I heard the worm and bees and all that stuff in there.
In fact, let's slow it down and people can hear it played slow so they can see all the words articulated, kind of like a video of a hummingbird.
Yeah.
Where you can see the wings flap.
Yeah, so we're going to slow it down now. This is slowed down to 5,000 times the slower speed.
Yep. Slowed down to 5,000 times the slower speed.
That's how you say that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, here we go. Robert and Rhonda the Lovebirds, they're for Anthony Dodgers, Little Anthony Cigar Store, the Immortal Chelsea, Jimmy Beam, Little Anthony, Lily the Valley, Andrew and Esther the Lovebirds, the Keith Matter, David Mighty Man Trucking, John and Jill and Little Baby Max, Jay and Katie who are cold and love cheese, and also C.S. Lewis, Play of Faces, Fairy Princess of Wonder and Happy as Mother Breath, Consul Prime Adam, Jeremy the Dark Hooded Lord of Death, Brandon Sucks. I'm just putting this in here. He won't be able to hear it because I'm talking so fast. Nathan, not me. Maya, Ryan the Red Avenger, and Judith the Ladies of Justice, Danny the Dude, DJ Sammy G. Now I feel bad about that Brandon thing. Brandon's really pretty awesome. I love Brandon, Benny, Danny Tiberius, Eric and Catherine from Yano Window Breaks, Professor and Lady X, Lavender's Green, Dylan, Lavender's Blue, Lavender's Green, Dylan, I love you too. Noah Constructor, Mary Cheap, the Fire and Fragrant, Mary Chloe, Brandon's okay. Anthony, who's cold and hates life, liberty, the pursuit of cheese, Jiu-Jitsu, Jeffrey, the Texas Ranger, Rachel, Midnight Ninja, Ellen, Queen, Get Return of the Jedi, Ray, Jay of Rack, and I hate Brandon's guts. He's fat. Timothy, the writer at dawn, Eric and Kate, the camp champ, Kings who are warm and love bees, man, sweet, Jamie, Sunshine, Tyler, the keeper of eternal darkness, and Laura, the keeper of eternal life, Cold Steel, Cody, and he smells, not Cody, but Brandon, Jacqueline, the librarian, Barbarian, John, Captain Neil, his mate, Saxophone Alex, Eli, the Scarlet Pill, the other Saxophone Alex, and Dubstep Danny, Ryan, the Terror of Texas, and Eric of the Catherine, Cream, and Crimson, who are stuck in the cold. Please send cheese. I wish Brandon was stuck in the cold, and I would not send him cheese.
That was amazing. So many little things that you didn't hear.
Yeah. Stuck in grace notes, I call them.
Grace notes, yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Great.
Thanks.
I heard some things in there that I didn't hear the first time.
Mm-hmm.
We'll discuss them after you turn the mic off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't think that one through, folks. Probably shouldn't have slowed it down that much.
Don't mind this bottle of chloroform in this rag. Don't mind it, Nathan. You just stay seated.